All right, hi everyone. Welcome to the stream. My name is Sin. I'm the art director at Kitfox Games, currently working on Boyfriend Dungeon. And today for this LudoNarraCon stream, I'll be doing a little bit of behind the scene work on the game. I'll be showing you our development process for making character portraits. I'll talk a bit about of ideas and process, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. Hopefully it'll be entertaining, and overall it's going to be a chill stream. We'll put up some music from the game soundtrack, so yeah, feel free to just hang out and chill with us. Alright, and here's our Steam page. So Kitfox Games is a indie game studio based in Montreal. If you scroll down, under our upcoming releases, we have a number of games. And today, I'll be streaming mostly about Boyfriend Dungeon. So Boyfriend Dungeon is a dungeon crawler meets dating sim, where the weapons that you find in the dungeon become beautiful people that you can date.
The dance floor, you could tell that I was something you might take a chance for. You were calm in the chaos, crazy in the darkened room, and you would do anything to get me home.
For each of the 9 dateable characters especially, we have a large number of expressions and moods, just so that's when there are different things happening in the story, that we can see like a visual reaction to it. And it's always, it makes the characters more relatable, right? It makes the game much more expressive. So whenever I design a character, there's always going to be like 5 or 6 more expressions and variations that need to be made. So in this case, for example, this is Estoc, one of our playable characters. This is his neutral pose, but he also has, like, for example, this sad pose, right? Ooh, very, very sad. And he also has a surprised mood. All right. So let's just test out the game. Let's play the game. Let's take a look at a date with Estoc. Let's see what the portraits look like in their usual context, and maybe see the effectiveness of the mood changes in the dating sim portion of the game. So what we see here is the player's apartment. It's kind of like your base in the game, where you have access to a number of menus. For example, you have the crafting table here, where you can collect recipes and craft new gifts, new equipment. And this is our mirror, where you can change your character's outfit. And let's randomize it a little bit. There we go. Yeah, and we're working on many more of those options. Now, let's test the state, shall we? All right, so now we are in Isaac's office. Isaac is Estoc's name. Hello, assistant. Do I have an appointment? Yes? Kim, you made it. Christine, Kim is always welcome here. My character's name is Kim, so thank you. Yeah, it's good to see you too, Isaac. So I think Isaac had offered me in a text message to have a bit of a fencing tutorial, fencing class with him inside his office. He must have like a big office, you know. Now, which one should I take? I think Saber. It's a pretty good one. All right. I prefer the name of it anyway. It sounds cooler. You do this all the time, huh? So this is one of the fencing gear portraits that he has. En garde. Wow. Let's lunge forward. You can see that he's a little surprised. And this is his thinking pose. Yeah. So I think, yeah, with the additional moods, the characters, they really do come alive a lot more. Alright. Great. And this is like our work in progress skill selection, love rank up menu, where you can choose different perks and different upgrades once your love rank has gone up with a given weapon. The descriptions are still being written right now. But yeah, so the idea is that as your relationship deepens, as your bond deepens in the dating sim section of the game, it will also have a positive impact on the dungeon gameplay, right? So you have maybe more powerful attacks, or unlock additional combos, unlock additional effects, greater stunning, or maybe more range in your attack. Alright, so now I'd like to show y'all some very secret, very early sketches of our boyfriend dungeon boyfriends. Alright, so Talwar and Dagger were the first characters to be designed, and they really defined the style of the game. So even though the outfit has changed quite a lot especially for Talwar here, but you can see that the line art style, that the line art cell shading style is starting to coalesce right here, compared to a much earlier stage over here, where they're more painterly. The colors are a little bit more sketchier, more blocky. We were even toying around with this idea of a time traveler character. I do really miss this character. That was really fun. But here we have different iterations, different versions of Sunder. Right? Before we settled on the line drawing one, because I think after all, one of our main goals is to make the characters attractive, right? So in my opinion, even though I personally prefer drawing in this more loose style, but in terms of the attractiveness of the character, our current style is a bit better, is a better fit for that. And this is Valeria, Dagger, in a much earlier phase again. Let's see. Yeah, some more sketches. Right, these are like super early, just kind of having a sense of each character's fashion style, exploring the pose and the attitude that they may have. Right, and this is much closer to what we currently have. Right, and this is a very early lineup of the possible weapons and characters. And to me, it was really important to design all of these characters all together, right, as a whole cast, as a diverse and unique cast of characters. The weapons as well, right? We want to have a diversity of gameplay as well. Different speed, slow moving, fast moving weapons. Long range, shorter range, more melee ranged. And here we have some early versions of Laser Saber, and previous versions of Hammer and Axe, as well as Glaive. Before Glaive used to be a frying pan, but I think Glaive as a weapon is much cooler, right? And Brass Knuckle. And I had a lot of fun doing these mood sketches too, just getting a sense of the character, with these very quick and loose sketches, right? And focusing on certain specific character traits and trying to show them visually, right? Fierce. I think when I think about Dagger, definitely fierce is a very important trait for her, right? Okay, and as for the weapons, we went through a lot of different sketches as well, right? So for Brass Knuckles, we have different versions of these like claw instrument. Definitely the cat inspiration, the kitty claw inspiration is very strong. Even for frying pan, we had a couple different variations. S-Stock, this was super fun to draw, especially all those little curved elements. Right. And for axe, we had some of the previous styles. This was when axe was a park ranger. But in our current game, axe is now a surfer. So the new version, the new art for the axe weapon, as you'll see in a little bit, is going to be quite different. Laser saber, I wanted to get some of the shape language, the visual language of this collider. All these like cylinder tubes, I wanted to use that aspect for the weapon. But in the end, I still went with a more, streamlined design, especially considering Seven's character, right? He's not like a scientist, he's not a robot. He is a K-pop star, right? Very smooth, he knows how to dance well, probably flashy, so definitely having this like plasma lasery look will be good for him, and probably very fashionable. So the look of the weapon shouldn't be too utilitarian, shouldn't be too mechanical. So this like more contemporary, I guess, fluid design, I think would fit his character a bit better. And Tall War and Dagger, I think those were just, I guess, easy to iterate on. And Hammer, an earlier version of Hammer, I think this was before we had decided that she would be a figure skater, she would be an ice skater, and we had this idea of having some Norse mythology involved. So we have this Thor hammer. These are references, a Thor hammer reference, but you see that in the current version it's a little different. So let's take a look at that, shall we? Take a look at the weapons. All right, so you can see we have the scythe that's also added. This is S-Stock, scythe, laser saber, with that fluid and kind of elegant design, I would say. Not to compliment myself too much. The dagger, glaive, and this is the hammer, right? So I had this idea of having maybe this mint emerald looking ice hammer, and one reason to focus more on the emerald color is that I realized that in terms of color coding, it was a bit too close to Brass Knuckles, orange brassy color, and the gold yellow color from Dagger, right? So I think focusing instead on this kind of a mint color will be much better, much more unique for Hammer. And you can see here that this was our inspiration, coral shapes. That was my inspiration for designing Axe, for redesigning Axe. And the handle itself is inspired by the shape of driftwood. That's why it's barkless wood. I think that would fit well with the surfer theme of the character now. And overall, I'm trying to give a unique color code to each weapon type, right? So that in various parts of the game, maybe in the user interface, we can color code each character a bit more easily, right? Yeah, so I think all in all, our character development process is very fluid, right? It's something that we don't mind kind of changing as we go along. But at this point of development, we have a pretty clear idea of who the weapons are, and most of the dates and stories have been written for them. And at this point, the work is to simply finish those portraits, continue working on each weapons, making them really feel unique, right? Both in the character, in the story, as well as in the dungeon when you fight with these weapons. Alright, so typically before I get started on drawing, I'll be getting some references and instructions from Tanya, who is our designer and writer. And for example, these references for Dagger's paint moods are pretty hilarious. It always makes me smile. And today, actually on the stream, I'll be drawing a new portrait, a new mood for Brass Knuckles, which is our cat character. Alright, so I think doing the scared one would be pretty interesting. It's a very unique, especially cats, right? When they're all puffed up, when they're scared. It's like a very, very unique look. So some of the notes I have here is really bushy tail, arched back, big eyes, sideways ears, slightly open mouth. Poor kitty. I think what will be a nice thing to do is to do some gesture drawings of cats. So I have these kittens. It's nice. We have 4 different poses of it. So I'm going to be doing some very quick gesture drawings. I'm going to be talking a bit about gestures, flow and rhythm, essential things to make a drawing feel more dynamic, feel more alive. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to drag this over here. Got a piece of paper. Okay. All right. So, generally, when it comes to animals, I like to first think about, what is the overall line of action here? What is a gesture here? And I'm not so concerned about accuracy at this point. I'm mostly concerned about the overall flow. Right? Yeah, and it's always good to do these kind of warm-ups before doing some creature drawings or animal drawings, because honestly I don't really draw animals every day. If you ask me to draw cats from memory without the reference, I will actually have a really hard time, right? Because I am not very familiar with these shapes. And generally the tail itself is a continuation of the whole movement of the spine, right? I mean, it's connected to the spine, so that makes perfect sense. And I think for cats, the tail, for a lot of animals, the posture of the tail tells us so much about their emotional state, the psychological state. And I think cats and dogs, maybe that's why we like them so much, right, as pets, is that they are very expressive. Compared to, let's say, a goldfish or turtle, it's a bit harder to read the emotion of these animals. Whereas with a cat and a dog, especially a dog, it's much easier to understand them, to relate to them. And maybe it's easier to also project our own feelings onto our pets when they have more humanistic facial features. Where's the other hand, the other little paw? I think it's underneath, somewhere like that. That's one. There's another one right behind it. Right over here. It's looking up. Gosh, these kittens are so cute. So let's come back to the overall flow. You know, when I'm doing these gesture drawings, it makes me think a lot about Tai Chi and martial arts, I think. Just this idea of a physical flow of forces, of energy, right? It's very physical, I think, gesture drawings. You should be able to feel the force of something. Kind of meta. You're gonna see me undoing my lines a lot just to try to hit that perfect curve, good enough curve on the first try. I think that's one of the secrets to drawing nice lines, smooth line art. Well, you can get a Cintiq. I don't have a Cintiq. I prefer using tools. So tablets that don't have a display built into them, simply because I think I'm so used to it now, and I don't like the fact that my palm is hiding my drawing when I'm drawing on the Cintiq, when I'm drawing on the iPad even. But it is a lot better for line art, right? Whereas on the Cintiq, whereas on the InTools, I find myself just undoing a lot. Let's move that to the center. And maybe we can do one more. Yeah, just to finish our warm up. Hee. This one has a big ball. For this one, I'm going to try to just exaggerate the forms a little bit more. Because after all, Brass Knuckles, our character in Boyfriend Dungeon, is slightly more stylized than a normal cat. So I'm going to try to push that stylization a little bit more on this last gesture drawing here. Just by exaggerating all the curves. Like here, for example, let's move it a little bit higher. See how that would look like. And then for the ears, also exaggerate the movements of it. Well, it's important that it's still cat-like. Here we have the shoulder. This cat is very chubby looking. Chub. All right. So I think that concludes the warm-up drawing for these cats. Just gonna touch up a few small things just for fun. Okay. Okay, so we have the PSD for our kitty cat over here. Let's bring that in, and let's bring in the references too. Scared. Okay. I think for today I'm just gonna put it. Just gonna copy into the file. let's do that. All right. So we have our current existing portraits. A neutral pose, kind of smug looking. I think that's part of Pocket's personality. That's the name of the cat, Pocket. Cat sleeping, purring, with little hearts, very cute, and a hissing portrait. So I think hissing and scared are gonna be a little bit similar in many ways, but I think the scared portrait should be a very extreme version of hissing in a way. Okay, so let's make this a little bit bigger. Actually, it'll be good to have the text as well, just to always keep those instructions in mind as I'm drawing this. Okay. So we're actually gonna start simply from a line art. It's always useful to start from the line art, and gonna keep the original over here and make a duplicate and start sketching. Usually I start fairly rough and I clean it up as I go. Okay, so I think it'll be good to flip these around and then flip the whole canvas so that I can line up Pocket's face direction with the references. There we go. So I'm gonna exaggerate those really big eyes. Whoa. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too cartoonish. Okay, well, we have to keep in mind that Pocket's eyes were pretty big to begin with, right? So, and Pocket actually has eyebrows. Just a little hack, a little trick to make this character a little bit more expressive, right? But cats don't really have eyebrows. So as I'm sketching this, you know, really the whole point of sketching this is problem solving. How do I convey a sense of surprise in a cat's eye? I think we're getting there. Okay, so the ears need to be pulled back quite a bit more. Alright, so we need to figure out a way to make the tail really bushy. Right. I think it's important that I try as much as possible to preserve some of the characteristics of the head, because that's what's going to help us recognize Pocket as a character. And we might even consider making these eyeballs extra large. Oh my. Very surprised. Alright. Okay, so in this kind of pose, I think it's important that the head is lowered quite a lot compared to the rest of the body. And let's make a new layer since we already have the head drawn out. Okay, so arched back. So I think we can try to keep some parts of this new portrait similar to the neutral pose, just so that when the change does happen, it doesn't seem too jarring, right? So maybe if I can keep the front paws in a similar position, this would be helpful. And instead of curving the back that way, maybe I need to actually arch it this way, the other direction. And yeah, when I do think about scared cats, you know, I kind of think about this kind of pose where all four legs are on the ground, and then the whole body sort of creates a sort of an arch shape, and then a very, very bushy tail. Right. So maybe what we're trying to draw could be a slightly less dramatic version of that posture. Let's put that here as a note for ourselves. Raise up the belly a lot more. So as I'm drawing this, I'm trying to just cycle through different ways to integrate different mixes of these references, right? And try to find what is like the ideal pose for this image. That might be a bit too puffed up. Let's see. What it looks like when we flip it a little bit. Yeah. So this is a fairly dramatic portrait. It's a portrait where the visual changes a lot. So it's not something that should be used often in the story, in the game, because it will be very jarring if it's always swapping between the neutral pose and this one. It's just a little bit too intense to be shown all the time, right? So hopefully the way it's used in the game will be fairly specific to certain situations. I'm still trying to fix a bit some drawing issues that I'm seeing. See if there's some way I can improve it. Here, I think in the end I'm just gonna stick more closely to this specific reference, combining this one with the head of this one. I think will be a simpler solution. Alright, so let's rework that tail a little bit. And I want to emphasize that arch on the back a bit more if possible. Alright, so at this point I'm fairly happy with the way the sketch is looking. And the next step would be to go into maybe a slightly more refined version of the sketch, further resolve some of the other issues that I'm seeing before jumping to the final lines. Rotate these one last time, just to line up the perspective on the feet a little bit better. Okay, good. So now we're going to flip the canvas. Gonna keep my references on the left side of the screen like this. And I'll be drawing the right side. So. We're gonna see if we can start this drawing by taking the head from the neutral pose and using that as a starting point. We need to flip it and then do a little bit of tweaking. And I think the sketch is just a little bit bigger in scale than what we need. So let's change that. Let's move this on the other side to match. Overall, let's stretch a little bit like that. Go back to the sketch just to resize it slightly. I think it's overall just a little bit bigger than what we need. There we go. Use a bit of warp. Alright, so the last step is to simply work on the fur pattern. So let's bring this back over there. I'm just going to be using the original pose as our reference. Maybe also look at the sleeping pose. The next step would be simply to fill in the shapes and apply the colors, apply the same fur patterns and colors as the normal original version, and then bring to the game. And it will be something that we can then test inside the game within its context and see if there's any further changes that's required. All right, so there we have it. I can polish over a few small details, but I'm gonna leave it like this for the stream. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed our stream today. This video will be on loop for the whole weekend for LudoNarraCon. Yeah, you can check out Boyfriend Dungeon on Steam. You can wishlist it right away. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord channel. So I hope that you stay safe, you and your family in these times, and see you next time.